Hello, everyone, and welcome to this stage 5 of the Digital Swiss 5, the last stage out of the five-day tour. Technically speaking, it has been five stages. Today we have 37.82 kilometers on the cards. The guys have already started racing. They're 10 minutes into the race, and everyone's looking strong. 37.82 kilometers and a total elevation gain of 990 meters. So in kind of let's call it 1,000 meters of climbing in 37.82 kilometers. So quite a decent amount of climbing. If I just turn my front camera off quickly, if you look at the bottom there, that's the route profile that the guys are taking on today. So you can see they're going up a little bit of a drag at the moment. So there's quite a big climb until about just past 1/3 of the race. You can see they go on a downhill, and then towards the finish, you can see it's actually quite a long drag towards the finish. So the last 7Ks or so are an uphill, so it's definitely going to suit the power type of rider. We saw Rowan Dennis winning the pro race about an hour before this race started. Rowan Dennis winning another one of these digital Tour de Suisse stages. So Rowan Dennis showing that his time trial effort really quite strong at the moment with these indoor training races. These virtual races becoming a big thing with the COVID-19 pandemic. I'll turn that camera back on so you can see me there. At the moment, we have Guy Depries from France, currently in first position, obviously going straight from the start and whacking it full gas, going 6.4 watts per kilo. Confirmed South African riders in today's race. We have Gustav Besson from Team ProTouch Continental. We have Javier Kruger from Team ProTouch Continental. You can see them if you look on the left-hand side of the screen. Gustav currently in second position. Javier Kruger currently down in fourth. And we also have James Pops Ferree, also from the ProTouch Continental riders taking part in today's race. We have confirmation after yesterday's, I put out a challenge after Andris Nagiri actually commented on the feed last night. I put a challenge out to him to come on board and come and stick it to the ProTouch lads and try and be the first place South African rider once again. Dual Final State putting up that prize for a case of wine for the best place South African cyclist for today's stage. So thanks again to them for making that prize available. Andris Nagiri, South African cyclist, quite a strong individual. Actually, he's riding as an individual on the South African circuit. He used to ride for ACDC Luso last year, but he had confirmed with me today that he rides now for Drake Events. So that's his personal sponsor. So it's great to see another South African cyclist taken to the start line. Unfortunately, the Office Guru riders sticking to their training schedule, so they don't have any riders starting today's race. We saw them 2 riders in the top 10 yesterday. We saw Travis Barrett and JP Lloyd well in the top 10 in yesterday's stage 4 on a nice flattish circuit. A nice thing, I saw a tweet from Office Guru Racing. They tweeted yesterday. Let me just find it here quickly. They compared their race-winning times, JP Lloyd and Travis Barrett. If you compared their times compared to the World Tour athletes who competed on the same route, same distance, same elevation, on the exact same course, they would have finished in 40th. So JP would have finished 40th, and the Cape Town Cycle Tour winner Travis Barrett would have finished in 44th place overall in the World Tour race. So if you're comparing their times, you're taking the fan race, which we're currently watching now, and you integrate their times into the World Tour times, which the race takes place just an hour before. In yesterday's race, they would have finished 40th and 44th position overall. So that's quite a credible result for the Office Guru boys. The Team ProTouch guys have been finishing on the podium in these races as well. So from what I remember correctly, on stage 3, I think I think Ken Main and Gustav Besson in that exciting finish on stage 3, where Kent caught his teammate Gustav, and then in the last kilometer on stage 3, I think they would have finished in the top 20. So it's really cool to see. It's such a great format of racing where we can compare the fan race to the World Tour race, and these guys, these up and coming youngsters. I mean, Travis Barrett and JP Lloyd, only 20 years old. Comparing themselves to World Tour athletes. It's not often we get to see this type of racing. So let's have a look at a couple of the names that we've got used to over the last few days. I kind of feel I've got to know these riders over the last few days because I've seen their names so often. So Depries is the French guy, if I'm not mistaken. He actually won a stage. I think it was stage 2 or 3 he might have won, but his name's become very familiar, so he's been right up there. Just trying to see if we can see him. Yeah, the system sometimes does this. We click down to the bottom view, and then it battles to focus in and actually follow these guys. So sometimes you just have to be a bit patient with the system. But if you look at the aerial view, you can see he's way ahead. Gustav Besson, Team Protash Continental rider, currently in 2nd position, not too far ahead of M. Weiss, the Swiss rider. We saw him win on stage 1, ahead of, shucks, I forgot his name. But there we have Javier Kruger, Team Protash Continental rider as well, currently in 4th position. So 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place, very close to each other. And that's, I'm sure they'll be grouping up quite soon. And, I'm guessing on the climb. So they're actually going up a 7% climb. If you look in the top left-hand corner there, 6.6%. So it's relatively steep. It's not super steep at the moment, but you can see they're really putting in a big effort. Let me actually minimize my camera here quickly so you can see the kind of effort they have to put in to go up this little drag. Let me just turn my camera off there. There we go. So there's the kind of, if you look at the route profile, you can see they're really laboring now. They're going up quite a steep incline at the moment. Let's go down and see if the bottom view is working again. If we just click this button there. Oh, so there we go. HP Kruger. He can see the riders up the road. Gustav Besson, his teammate, and M. Weiss, stage 1 winner, M. Weiss from Switzerland. It looks like Gustav is nicely tucked onto Weiss's wheel there, the Swiss rider. Gustav Besson's view looks like this. Putting out a nice constant effort. We saw the winning time of today. Rowan Dennis won today's stage in a time of 59 minutes and 28 seconds. So we're looking at these riders to finish anything between an hour and an hour 10. The top rider, today's winner, I'm guessing, just over 1 hour today. So Rowan Dennis won today's race in the Walter race. In 2nd place was Nicholas Roach. Rowan Dennis, I think that's his 2nd win in the series of racing. So Rowan Dennis showing that these 1 hour efforts are really suiting him. Time trial rider, knows how to push watts over a 1 hour time trial. So if we compare it, I'd look at today's leader at the moment, putting in a massive effort. G. Depries for the French rider. So you can see they're going up a nice incline. When they get to the top of the climb, it'll be a nice fast section all the way down to about 7 k's to go, where they hit another big drag, and that'll see them complete the course of a total distance of 37.82 kilometers. So a tough race on the cards today. 1,000 meters of climbing and 37.82 kilometers. So yeah, today is, I wouldn't say the hardest out of the stages, but it's definitely going to put the sting in the legs. If there was a 6th stage, we'd definitely be seeing riders starting to look at taking some recovery. So there I'm back. You can see that if you just can imagine that kind of route profile behind my screen there, that's looking quite good. So let's have a look at some of the other riders. Weiss putting in a big attack now. He's trying to distance himself from the 2 Protash Continental riders, Javier Kruger and Gustav Besson. If we work our way down the list here, Jay Hennessy, he won yesterday's race. Remember this guy, he's from the UK and he rides for a continental team in the United Kingdom. Jay Hennessy, we saw him win stage 2 and win yesterday's stage. So he's won 2 out of the 5 stages, so he knows how to ride. He's definitely committed to the cause of completing all 5 stages. We've been seeing some of the athletes being swapping and changing amongst the teams. Team Protash Continental have been swapping out riders amongst the 5 stages, but as we saw, Office Guru Under 23 Racing Team starting the same riders 2 days in a row. So yeah, it was great to see the youngsters come on board and take part in today's race. Andries Nagiri, the other South African rider in today's race, nicely tucked in there in 12th position. We were chatting today over WhatsApp, and he was telling me over this lockdown period he's actually put on a few kilos. He's not at his race weight, so up these climbs he's probably taking a little bit of strain. But I told him to actually just put in his race weight, and he said no, he wanted to rather be a little bit. He in fact wanted to be really honest. So he's put in his proper weight, which is good to know. Sometimes what these riders do is they try and take chances, and they don't put in their real stats, which does put the system a little bit out of sync, and it can give you a little bit of an advantage. Still, that camera not working there. So how this virtual racing works is you get something called the Smart Trainer. The Smart Trainer connects to your PC or your phone or your tablet, whatever you're using to download this app, and communicates via Bluetooth communication. So the trainer itself has Bluetooth communication, and it registers how many watts you're pushing down to the cranks. So how much force you're pushing down onto the bike. And if you take that number, you divide it by your current weight, which you'll enter into your profile before you start the ride. And it gives you a number called your power to weight ratio. And that's kind of the universal number of how fast you're going relative to everyone else. So if you're number one, your trainer is out of sync, or number two, you put in a very low weight, so you're very dishonest about your weight and you put in a low weight, you can actually take advantage of the system and get an advantage over your competitors. But luckily today, we just taking it for granted that everyone's honest and putting the correct numbers into the system. So Andres Nagiri, they're giving us confirmation that he's made sure his weight and everything and his trainer is calibrated. So he's currently in 11th spot, putting in out quite a good constant effort there of 5 watts per kilo. I'm just trying to, the system is still not clicking in there, which, let's maybe go to another rider. J Hennessy, T Hanlon, M Smith, G Groen. These are all familiar names that we've seen at the top of the leaderboard in the last couple of days. So they've all been top 10. So these are nice. It gives us a good indication that the same athletes are taking part day after day. M Machado, that's a Spanish flag, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Spain. You can correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong. So M Machado in 16th spot. James Ferree in 19th position so far. He's putting in a good effort. James Ferree taking in his 3rd race. Unfortunately, yesterday we saw him start the race, but unfortunately his trainer got disconnected due to some Wi-Fi problems. So that's one thing we take for granted in today's age, is we have constant Wi-Fi networks. So you do need Wi-Fi connection, a very strong Wi-Fi network to be able to race on these platforms. But yeah, James losing some connection yesterday and had to pull out of the race. So he did start yesterday, but unfortunately didn't finish the system. Let's look at the top of the leaderboard. Yeah, G de Priest, the French rider, still in a good spot there, still leading the guys out front. But M Weiss, the rider from Switzerland, he must know these roads. I'm sure he trains on these roads most days, because he's obviously from Switzerland. Switzerland, quite a small country. So he must be very familiar with the climb, the feeling. He's obviously not riding on this climb now, where we see HB Kruger coming straight past the camera. Unfortunately, it's not following the riders, which is a bit unfortunate. So you have to take advantage of the aerial view for now. But Javier Kruger in 3rd spot there. So M Weiss, the Swiss rider, just distancing himself from the 2 Pro Touch Continental riders. Gustav Poussin and Javier Kruger very close to each other. They're only separated by 75 meters at the moment. Javier got the advantage over Gustav just at the moment. So they are racing again for the case of Duurhof Wine. Duurhof Wine Estate putting out for the 4th day in a row now, a case of wine for the best placed South African rider. Andres Nagiri said he's going to take on the challenge and come and challenge these guys, and he's down in 12th position, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe he's dropped 11th, so he's actually gone up a rank there. But you can see there the group, he's kind of floating around that 9th, 10th, 11th spot, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13th spot, very close together. So they're going up a nice drag. If you look at the top left-hand corner there, 6%. So I wouldn't say it's steep, but it is putting the sting in the legs. So I think this is where they're getting all the elevation out of today's race. So once at the top of the climb, it's going to be interesting to see who's got the power to power it down on the downhill and take advantage of the very fast section. So going at about 17k an hour there, M Smith, Andres Nagiri very close to him, the South African rider, solo rider, but it's very cool to see him taking on the challenge, getting involved, and trying to stick it to the guys today. Jay Hennessy there, yesterday's winner, pushing out a good set of watts there, 5.5 watts per kilo. Yeah, looking very strong. I think he's going to take advantage of the downhill. We've seen him on all the climbing stages, kind of, I don't think back off on the climbs, but I think we saw yesterday when we looked at his stats, he's 191 meters tall, so almost 2 meters tall, and he weighs in the high 70s. So on the steeper parts of the climbs, we can really see this type of rider taking a bit of strain. So he's definitely just trying to labor himself to the top of the climb and take all advantage of that downhill. He's a power rider. He's very good on the flats, and he can pack out a good set of watts. I'm thinking on the downhills, I'm expecting anything between 360 and 400 watts from this rider to try and make up some time to be able to bring it home and get ahead just before that last little drag before the finish line. So Vice now pulling away from Javier Kruger. He's currently in third spot, and Javier pulling away from his teammate, Gustav Besson. These type of riders, very, very similar in terms of their riding style. Let's have a look-see and see if we are winning with this camera. Like I was saying earlier, Javier Kruger and Gustav Besson actually very similar in their riding style. Both can time trial. Both can time trial very well, and both can pack out a decent amount of watts in a sprint as well. So they're not out and out proper sprinters, but if it comes down to a small group of 10 to 20 riders, these guys can really pack out a good set of watts and win races. Javier Kruger starting out on the road, raced on the track as well. Like I mentioned 2 days ago when he came second overall in stage 2. He has won the Pole Boxing Day race on the track, which is obviously on Boxing Day in December. It's a massive track race in Pole. And yeah, he's won that race. He's represented on the mountain bike. So he's raced on the mountain bike, the road, the track, and he's won races in all 3 disciplines. So this rider, very diverse, can adapt to any kind of environment. And we can see now he's taking on the virtual side of racing and becoming a virtual racing cyclist. So Javier Kruger, very talented athlete, and knows how to adapt to his circumstances. Gustav Besson, there we have him just a year ago, unfortunately in a car accident, breaking his leg, and it's great to see him back on form, back racing at the top level and packing out anything between 5 and 6 watts per kilo over an hour effort. So that's great to see. Good news. Gustav is back in tip-top shape. He took part in the Tour of Rwanda this year, where his teammate Kent Main, who actually beat him in the last kilometer on day 3 in the most exciting virtual race I've ever experienced or watched. So yeah, Gustav Besson was in Tour of Rwanda this year with Ken Main, where Ken Main finished 4th overall on GC. Now, if you know anything about Tour of Rwanda or Rwanda itself, very small country in the middle of Africa next to the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and they're just climbs. These types of climbs can compare to anything in Europe, in the Alps, Switzerland, France, some very big climbs. So Kent really knows how to go up a climb very fast, and showing his teammates in the last kilometer on day 3 that he paced himself very well, just to come over Gustav there and take second spot on stage 3 of the Digital Tour of Swiss. So ProTouch getting very involved in this digital racing type of format. We're hoping that after this race today, obviously it's been 5 consecutive days of racing, we're hoping that there'll be more of this type of racing. Ruvi and Velon teaming up and getting involved and really trying to promote the professional side of the sport on this virtual platform, while we can't race and ride out on the road just yet due to the coronavirus. Yes, it's not working at the moment. Just trying to see what I mean there, where I say the system's not working. I click on the name and it's not following them. It should be following them there. Unfortunately, that's not happening at the moment. So hopefully we can get more of this this type of view towards the finish, but unfortunately nothing I can do about that. Sorry guys. Gilling, we've seen him also a couple of times over the last few days from the UK. T. Handler and Jichrun Nagiri putting in a good effort there, the South African cyclist. Currently in 3rd spot out of the South African riders. James Pops Faries a little bit down the list here. Vice slipping down. We saw him actually in the top 3, if I'm not mistaken. Vice, or it might be his brother. So there's 2 Vices. Maybe I've been getting confused between them over the last few days. But we have M Vice. There's another Vice down here. I'm sure there was a Vice. Ray Machado. Vase. Oh, two different ones. Both from Switzerland. Okay, guys, I might have been getting confused between these two riders over the last few days, but you get Vase and Weiss. Didn't know that. But both from Switzerland. So both of these athletes will be very familiar with the roads that they're going up. I'm sure they've trained a lot on these roads. We'll be looking for James Pops Faree. James. Where are you, James? No, he wasn't this far down the list earlier on. He was up there in the top 15. Where is he gone now? If you guys can see him, leave it in the comment section below. Maybe Pops had some Wi-Fi issues again, like last night. Last night he pulled out of the race due to some Wi-Fi problems. But if you can see James Faree, Jay Faree is who you're looking for. Don't see him down the list. Maybe he's lost Wi-Fi. Oh, there he is. Found him. James Faree slipping down the list. He was up there in 12th, 13th spot, but we found him. James Faree in 26th position, the South African cyclist from Team Pro Touch Continental. Getting into a nice group there. If we look there, anything from 20th position, from 19th position down to kind of where James is sitting at the moment, all these athletes are quite nicely tucked in with each other. So taking advantage of that slipstream effect that gets handed to them on this virtual form of racing. Still not working with the camera down below. Watch out for the car, guys. There we go. Watch out for the car. Hopefully this kicks into place and we're able to get some following going. A name we haven't seen just yet. He might not be racing today, but Verini Alphen. Verini Alphen was a guy from France, a French rider who was very dominant on day 1 and day 3. Verini Alphen, I haven't seen him on today's list. A total amount of starters today, 386 riders starting today's virtual Tour de Suisse fan race. So it's great to see the numbers increasing every single day from the first day till today. The first day was kind of hanging around 310 riders starting out, and we finished, today we saw 386 riders starting the race. So the growth over the 5 days has been quite significant. So riders getting involved, riders showing that they're very keen to race this new format of racing. So Harbier Kruger is still down in 3rd place, losing some distance to M. Weiss at the moment, the Swiss rider. Gustav Bassani's teammate, quite hot on his heels. They're only 150 meters behind Harbier Kruger at the moment. So they're racing today for another case of Duurhof wine. Guys, today's your last chance to get involved and put in your orders for Duurhof wine. The wine promo there, the coupon code Team Pro Touch Continental's coupon code to get some discount on wine. You can write this coupon code down, LD-0320. So that will get you up to 50% discount on their website, duurhofwineestates.co.za. I think that's the right URL. But up to 50% discount if you use that coupon code. So get your orders in, and the deliveries will be delivered straight after the lockdown, which I'm thinking will be on Friday. I think deliveries open on Friday. So there's your coupon code. Write it down, and it will be used. It can get you up to 50% discounts on Duurhof wine. So take advantage of it. Today's the last day that you can purchase with that coupon code. I think you might be able to do it a few days down the line, but I think today is the last day of the promo. So take advantage of that. Wine, everyone's running low on stock. Wine, beer, alcohol, it's in high demand at the moment. So take advantage of the discount and get it delivered just after lockdown. We are in some crazy times, guys. Crazy times. Times are changing. We've got to adapt to this new lifestyle of staying indoors as much as possible. It's difficult. Let's go into the aerial view, just because that downward camera is not working at the moment. So the guys have been racing for 34 minutes so far. 34 minutes going on 35 minutes. They're just getting to the top of that climb. Guy Depries, the Frenchman, he's motoring ahead. He's almost 2 kilometers ahead of second place. 2.2 kilometers ahead of Harbier Kruger, and he is motoring. He is not showing. He's waiting for no one. So he's Looks like if he can just hold his internet connection and keep up his leg speed, it looks like he's got quite a big advantage over his competition tonight. So looks like he's motoring down the other side of the climb. You can see that he's going 72 kilometers an hour at the moment. So that's, you can see they're really taking advantage of the downhill. Negative 8.3%, so 8% down, which means he's really, I mean, you see his cadence there. His wattage not that high at the moment, but you can see the speed that these guys are reaching. So they've reached the top of the first climb, long drag. It's taken them 35 minutes to get to the top of this climb, and yeah, it's kind of a flat-out downhill. If you look at the route profile there, you can see all the green and the yellow sections are the kind of downhill, flattish type of sections. And if you look there, it goes all the way down till about 7 km to go, where they hit another big drag. And I think that's where the race is going to be won or lost. It looks like G. Dupree's the Frenchman taking full advantage of his power and going up to 70 km an hour. So pushing out a massive stack of watts at 350, now freewheeling. But yeah, it looks like he's motoring ahead. Device, the Swiss rider, quite sure, showing that second spot's looking quite good there. So Harbeck Kruger in third spot now, 450 meters or so behind second place. His teammate just about 230 meters behind him there. So we just wait. That's why the system is not working. System's not working today, guys. Let's have a look here. Just clicking on the name. Jay Hennessy, yesterday's winner, powerhouse. He is now in fifth position. He's got over the crest of the climb, and I think he's going to be looking to take advantage of this downhill to try and make up some meters on his competition. Definitely, he's looking. He knows Gustav Besson. He knows Harbeck Kruger. He finished just ahead of Harbeck Kruger on stage 3, so he knows how strong Harbeck can be. He knows that that Harbeck finished in second overall, so he knows exactly who he's racing against. He's a continental cyclist from the UK, so he's very familiar with this format of racing, also taking part in all 5 stages. So I think this is racing and how it's going to be for the next couple of months. Do you think that these professional riders are going to get back out onto the road this year? That is a question for you guys. Leave it down in the comment section below, and let me know, what do you think? Do you think these cyclists, these pro riders, these continental riders, or even the World Tour cyclists will get back to racing anytime this year? And if so, if you think they're going to get back to racing this year, let me know. Do you think that's going to be July, August, September, October, November? When do you think they will get back to racing? And if so, do you think the Tour de France will happen? I know there's been a few articles that have been pushed out this year. Well, not this year. Well, in the last month or the last couple of weeks, saying that the Tour de France will be postponed until August. Is a conspiracy theory? Is it something that actually is going to happen? Let us know. Let us know your opinion. We like to interact. We like to engage. And we like to know what other people are thinking. And what do you think of this type of format of racing? I mean, it's really not the 4-5 hours of racing that these guys are used to. I mean, these guys are used to going out riding 140 Ks, 150 Ks. These type of efforts are short, sharp, anything between 45 minutes and an hour 15. Is this becoming the new format of racing that these guys need to get used to for the next couple of months? Almost like, I mean, if you compare it to the mountain bike, it's almost like a cross-country effort. You look at the cross-country guys, these type of times that these guys are pushing for these distances, it's a short, explosive effort. So do you think that these guys have to adapt to this type of racing over the next couple of months, or do you think they should stick to their normal training and kind of still do their longish 4 hours, 5 hours, or what do you think is actually not necessary due to this type of format of racing that these guys are going to be competing on for the next few months? So let us know. I'd like to know your opinion. I think for the next at least 3 or 4 months, this is going to become the new normal. These guys are going to have to get used to this type of racing, and it's definitely going to become something that, I mean, esports. If you look at the Formula One, you look at professional cycling, esports in this time where people are not allowed to go outside and compete and be in massive crowds, this is the new way of racing and competing. Do you think that these guys need to adapt their training programs to suit this type of racing? Harbia Kruger, guys, I'm getting quite frustrated at the moment because the system is not following these riders. And why is that not working? I'm very sorry. It's making it not as good as the last couple of days, but we'll keep pressing the buttons and hoping that it comes right. We're going to have to rather look at this aerial view for now. So Harbia Kruger, 240 meters ahead of his teammates at the moment for the best placed African rider to take home the prize. Harbia has already won a case of wine. So if he wins another case of wine, do you think he's going to stick to red wine? We saw that he did actually go with the red wine from Duhoff. Is he going to pick another case of red wine, or is he going to even it out and go for a case of white wine? Who knows? But he first has to win today. He's not far ahead of his teammate, 300 meters, with about 15 k's to go. So not too far to go. It's a very fast section. These guys are going to go down this climb, and they're going to start the drag towards the finish. And that's where we saw guys like Kent Main on stage 3. There was a massive climb in the last third of the race, and Ken started in about 7th or 8th place at the bottom of the drag, and he slowly just judged his efforts. This type of racing is all about judging your efforts. You can't go out too hard too soon, otherwise in the last third or the last 10 minutes of the race, you completely blow yourself and you end up going backwards. So it's very important to pace yourself. It's a full gas effort. We did see Harbia's screen on day 2 when he finished 2nd overall. We did tap into his Facebook live feed there. He did a live stream on Facebook, and we showed it up on the screen, and we saw the kind of effort he was going through. He was suffering. It was a time trial effort, full gas effort, and it just personified what we actually watching on screen. So still nothing there in the downhill view. But he's been very consistent in terms of his efforts. I think he's judging his effort very well. 3 watts per kilo, going almost 70 kilometers an hour there if you look at the top left-hand corner. So I think he knows what's coming. He can see that little drag at the finish, and he knows that that's going to be kind of the place to make or break this race. He is currently in 3rd place. He's trying to bridge that gap to 2nd, but 350 meters, it's not too far, but it is far. The Swiss rider now in 2nd spot, M. Bice. So like I've been mentioning in the last few days, these guys know their FTP. And if I explain that again, your FTP is your functional threshold power, and it's your effort or your sustained effort and your average power that you can push for a total time of 1 hour. So it's your average power you can push for 1 hour, and these guys know exactly what that effort is. So for example, if Harbia knows he can push 360 watts for an hour, he knows if he goes anything over that, he's not going to be able to sustain that effort. You take your FTP, which is your functional threshold power, like I've been explaining, and you divide it by your current weight, and that gives us your universal accepted number of your personal power to weight ratio, and that kind of becomes your CV. That's your selling point as an athlete to get into these bigger teams. So it's that your power to weight ratio becomes your kind of CV at any moment in time to get into a continental team, a pro continental team, and that's how cycling and sport has become so scientific. I can sit here in this room that I'm commentating in, do an FTP test. Okay, now as long as it's all legit and I'm honest about it, and I can take my FTP number, divide it by my weight, and I can send it off to any pro team, and they can say, okay, this guy's got it, he doesn't have it, and that's where this whole virtual world comes into play. We've seen World Tour teams kind of host these virtual races and these virtual kind of training camps where they can judge talented riders from all over the world. They bring them into one spot for a week training camp, and they can kind of scout talents just based on this virtual training format and racing format. So it's definitely the future, this virtual type of racing and this virtual type of talent identification. very scientific, and a lot of things can be judged from just from your numbers, essentially, from your power according to your weight. So that's where weight is very important when it comes to cycling. If you're dividing by less weight, obviously your power to weight ratio goes up, and that's where being lighter rather than heavier as a cyclist becomes quite important. But also, if you start to drop your weight too much, you can lose power. So then instead of having an FTP of, let's say, for example, 350 watts, you start losing power because you're dropping too much weight. So then you're dividing by a less number in terms of your weight because you're losing a lot of weight, but then your power is dropping as well. So it's really having this balance between being very powerful, but at your lightest where you're not losing power. So it's so scientific. But there are, and that's why it's so important for these riders, such as these pro riders now, these Continental riders like Team Pro Touch Continental, to have coaches, to have dietitians, to help guide them, because, I mean, a coach is saying, eat less, get your weight down, but then a dietitian is saying, no, you can't eat less because you're actually not getting the nutrition you need to be able to train at your best. So it's all these different things. Then it's about, obviously now, we want the licensed equipment because we want our weight down, because obviously your bike and you that you essentially racing up the climb or on any type of course. So it's you plus your bike that you need to push up the climb. So a lighter bike does essentially make you slightly faster up the climbs. So guys want to get their bikes down to, it's like, oh, there we go, the system. Oh, no. Team car is getting dropped here. It did hook onto Gustav there for a moment, but then it dropped him again. So like I was explaining, the power to weight ratio, there is a legal limit for a bike weight. So a bike can't be lighter than 6.8 kilograms. That is the legal limit for any bike in a UCI race, or actually any race for that matter. Any bike lighter than that is actually not allowed. So, and that's purely for the fact that any bike lighter than that, they've declared to be unsafe. So if you hit a pothole or you hit a bump too hard, they say that if a bike is roughly lighter than 6.8 kilograms, it is unsafe to ride. So that's just a little bit of, so that's a UCI rule. The UCI is the International Cycling Governing Body, who makes all the rules, who kind of grades all the races according to how hard it is, what level of race. So these Continental cyclists taking part in this race today, Pro Touch Continental, Jay Hennessy riding for a Continental team, they take part in all the races that are UCI 2.2. So the races are graded. So you get UCI 2.2, which the 2 stands for a tour, and the 0.2 stands for the level of tour that it is. So the 0.2 is kind of the lowest grade, and any kind of club team, national team, or continental team can take part in a 2.2 tour. If you go looking at one level above that, a 2.1 tour, those are races where only continental teams or pro continental teams or pro teams are allowed to take part. So no club teams are allowed to take part. So 2.1 tour, continental teams, pro continental teams, and also national teams are allowed to take part in 2.1. A level above that is 2.pro or kind of your pro races where only World Tour teams are allowed to take part, and also pro teams. So one level above a continental team. So those are the pro races. Then you get the World Tour races, which are kind of just by like an invitation type of format, and only the World Tour teams, only the 18 World Tour teams that are listed are allowed to take part in those races, alongside a few wildcard entries. So that's kind of the races that these riders are familiar with. So you get the World Tour races, you get the pro races, then you get the 0.2 and the 0.1 races. So these Continental riders who are taking part in the fan race are very familiar with the 2.1s and the 2.2s. So like I mentioned, the 2 stands for a tour. Then we get, in the same kind of format, we get the 1s. So the 1 stands for a one-day race. So you get the 1.2s, a level above that, the 1.1s. Then you get the 1 Pro races, and then you get the World Tour one-day races, which is kind of like your Paris-Roubaix, your Ronde van Vlaanderen, those type of big prestige kind of classics, which we haven't got to see this year. Like this time of the year is the year where I just know I do a nice Saturday 5-hour ride on Saturday, 5-hour ride on Sunday, and I come home and I just sit on the couch and I'll watch these one-day races on TV. So that's something we've missed this year, which is unfortunate due to the lockdown and this COVID-19 pandemic. But yeah, it's just something that's so much bigger than sport. It's so much bigger than everything around us. And yeah, it's just something we have to adapt to. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see those monuments, is what they call it. The monuments. I'm very happy to see that the system is now following Gustav. I don't want to change riders right now in case there's another glitch in the system. But Gustav Passon, oh no, we got dropped. We got dropped again. Team car got dropped. No, come on, load up. So you can see they're still going down Daniels there. So they're just about to start. Javier Kruger and Gustav Passon just about to start that drag to the finish. They have 6Ks to go before the finish line. G. de Vries, the race leader currently, has lost a little bit of distance on the Daniel. He is only now 1.1K behind second place. And also Javier Kruger, yes, he is catching up to second place now. So this is a tight race for second place. We look at the aerial position there. Javier, I think he judged his effort quite well on that Daniel, and now he knows it. Drag, 6K to go until the finish. Just needs to get onto the wheel there of M-By. Still very close between himself, Javier Kruger, and his teammate Gustav Passon. They're battling it out now for the case of wine, the duel of wine, which is up for grabs for the best placed South African rider. We've got Gustav Passon. Jay Hennessy looks like he's making his way back. We just see that. If we look at that distance between Jay Hennessy and Gustav Passon, it's coming down rapidly. So Jay Hennessy, I think, is also thinking about this last little drag, and he's now creeping his way back to Gustav Passon and Javier Kruger there. So looking quite close. Jay Hennessy, so second, third, and fourth, and actually fifth, still very close together at this stage. Looks like the race leader is off the front. He's pushing out a big stack of watts there. So looks like he might have it in the bag today. You can see the current gradient, they're going up 6%. So that's quite steep. I mean, that's considered a climb. It's not 10% or 12%, obviously, but if you look at the watts, it's 470 watts, 6 watts per kilo. Guys, if you go on your trainer today or tonight or even tomorrow morning, and you try hold 6 watts per kilo. If you do 6 watts per kilo, so if you can pack out, so you take your weight and you times it by 6. So let's say hypothetically you are 70 kilograms. You times it by 6, so that is 42. What this is that right? 42. So 420 watts if you're 70 kilograms. 7, 14, 228 by 42. Yeah. So if you weigh 70 kilograms, so you times that by 6. And you can push 420 watts for 10 minutes, guys. Even just 10 minutes. That you can be really proud of yourself. 6 watts per kilo for 10 minutes. That's a big effort. Now, the pro guys are pushing 6 watts per kilo for up to an hour. That's kind of their FTP number. That's what they're striving for. If you can push 6 watts per kilo and above for an hour, if your FTP is anything over 6 watts or more, 6 watts or more, yeah, that's kind of the World Tour level. That's what these guys want to strive for. So that's kind of what you have to gauge yourself against if you're trying to compare yourself to a World Tour cyclist. We saw actually Darryl Impey, the South African cyclist, take part in yesterday's race, and he was, I think, in somewhere 26th place, if I'm not mistaken. He was somewhere in the 20s there. So our ex-South African champ for the last 2 years took part in yesterday's race. Louis Meintjes, also an ex-South African champion. He took part in stage 3, and he was inside the top 10. So these South African riders, the guys who are racing the World Tour, getting involved, taking part. Our current South African champion, Ryan Gibbons, we haven't seen him take part yet on this platform, but maybe it's something we should maybe give a challenge to him. Come race the fan race. Ryan, get involved. Come race the fan race with the South African Pro Touch riders. Today, unfortunately, the last race out of these this 5-day stint. So hopefully there will be more of this type of racing. So Velon and Ruvi, the Ruvi platform, and Velon partnering up to promote not South African, but world racing, world tour cycling. So guys, what's happening in the race here? We have Guy de Vries, the Frenchman, still out front, but he has a decent gap over second place, 1 kilometer ahead of second place, of M. Weiss, the Swiss rider. Herbert Kruger crawling his way back. We saw Guy de Vries, the race winner, over 2 kilometers ahead of his competition, just bridging the first climb there, just before that long downhill. But looks like he's losing ground to second spot. So there's not long to go. It's actually only 2.8 Ks left for him. So it looks like he's going to hold it off. But it's still very much open-ended for second, third, and fourth place right now. And almost fifth place for that matter. But who's going to take it home? The case of Duel of Wine. Herbert Kruger, finished second place on stage 2. Now trying to be the best place African once again on stage 5. Gustav Besson, hot on his heels. Let's try. I wish we could get a bottom view. I don't know why it's not following. I'd love to know why, but very close. Only 64 meters in it. Oh, there we go. Watch out for the car. Javier. Oh, stay right. Oh, there we go. Okay. Just gone. I'm currently watching Javier Kruger distance himself from his teammate Gustav Besson. Gustav finishing, he took part on stage 3, he finished 3rd overall, and he finished 4th overall on stage 1. So he's become very familiar with this format of racing. Powerful rider, putting in a big effort, and not too long to go. There is 3 Ks left for Herbert Kruger, currently in 3rd position, ahead of his teammate Gustav Besson. Distanced himself from his teammate there slightly, but Gustav now bringing back the gap to Herbert Kruger. This is going to be another exciting finish like we saw on stage 3, where Gustav just lost in the last kilometer to his teammate Kent Main. But could he turn around today and switch roles and catch his teammate Herbert Kruger in the final stages of today's ride to take 3rd place overall and the case of wine for the best place South African? Only time will tell. We're coming into the final kilometers. If we're looking at the race time at the moment, we're just about to hit 58 minutes. The winning time for today in the World Tour race was won by Rowan Dennis in a time of 59 minutes and 28 seconds. So let's try and see. Guy de Vries now coming into the line, coming very close to the finish. So let's watch him. So 58 minutes. He has 1 minute and 18 seconds until he reaches the World Tour time. So I think this is the 1K to go mark. 1K to go for the race winner. He's going up this is the 1K to go banner. So he will be very close to today's World Tour winning time. So this is quite interesting. So the fan race, he's going past another cyclist there, straight past. I'm not waiting for that junior. He's went straight past, and he's well on his way to winning. So he's now counting this down. Will he beat Rowan Dennis? In today's stage 5 of the virtual Tour de Suisse? This is looking good. He's just hit 59 minutes. He has 28 seconds to go before he starts clocking down minutes into Rowan Dennis's time. So 28 seconds. I don't think it's going to beat Rowan Dennis's time, but let's see how he places. So second place was Nicholas Roach in 59 minutes and 39 seconds. So only 11 seconds between first and second in the World Tour race. But so he's not going to beat Rowan Dennis's time because it just hit that now. Nicholas Roach, sure, but he could. Let's see. Let's compare his time. He has a couple of meters to go. He has 700 meters until he reaches the finish. I know if you're a South African fan, South African supporter, you don't want to be watching this, but this is interesting to see. I want to see where this rider finishes amongst the World Tour athletes. So third place was 1 hour and 5 seconds. Let's see, must cross the line. So 10th place. So today's race in the World Tour, guys, that race an hour before, the times are very close. 10th place was 1 hour and 59 seconds. So if he can get in, oh, this is a brutal finish. Brutal finish. Let's look down here. So still not there. Whacking out 6.7 watts per kilo. Whacking out a massive sprint. Will he finish inside the top 10? 200 meters to go. 1 hour and 30 seconds. Wow, this is insane. This is a massive effort from this guy. We hope this is legit. I'm not being horrible towards him, but his time, he has crossed the finish line now. So 1 hour and 45 seconds puts him, 1 hour 45, puts him ninth place out of the World Tour athletes was 1 hour and 44 seconds. So that puts him in 10th place overall amongst the World Tour athletes. That is a massive effort. But Javier Kruger also coming in now. So we have Weiss coming in second and Javier Kruger coming into the finish line now, not too far behind. But who's going to take it? Gustav Besson needs to put in a big effort to catch his teammate Javier Kruger. This is for the case of Duel of Wine. It's coming down 50 meters between them in the last 300 meters. Oh, I wish you could have a look down at the aerial view. Come on. But this is it. This is all that's in it between Javier Kruger and Gustav Besson. 50 meters in it. But it looks like Javier Kruger is going to take another case of Duel of Wine just ahead of his teammate Gustav Besson. Two South African cyclists from the same team. It's been so close the whole race. But is that only the 1K to go? Oh, that's only the 1K to go, Mark. Guys, it's still race on. That's the 1K to go split. We've just seen it's confusing me a little bit with this system that's not working at the moment. But they're almost 1.5 minutes down on the race winner. Interesting to see that today's winner in the fan race would have finished in 9th overall if you compare the times to the World Tour athletes. Hopefully that's legit. Hopefully he's just really powerful and there's not something wrong with his trainer, because that's a monstrous effort. But like I said, we'll take it for granted that that's the real deal, and everything's looking good. So today's winner in the fan race would have finished 9th overall in the World Tour race. So guys, that's quite something. That's actually quite an achievement. You can be proud of that effort. But Javier Kruger is still in 3rd spot coming into, this is such a brutal finish. 800 meters to go for Javier Kruger. His teammate Gustav Besson 90 meters behind him. He needs to put in a big effort if he wants to catch up to his teammate, but I can just imagine. I know what it feels like when your trainer is tensioning up and you're experiencing 3, 4, 5% on the indoor trainer. It's that hard gear. You actually have to stand up and adjust your gears and make sure you're staying on top of the gear. But Javier Kruger staying at that consistent 5 watts per kilo throughout today's race. On the uphills, downhills, he's gone into time trial mode. He knows it's roughly about an hour effort. He knows what he can push for 1 hour, and he's squeezing out the watts, 430 watts now, over 6 watts per kilo. A good cadence of 75 revolutions, and whacking it now at 30k an hour, up a 3% gradient. He can see exactly what we're seeing right now. He knows Gustav Besson is hot on his heels, 100 meters behind him. And let's try and attempt to go. Oh, there we got it. Javier coming to the finish, 200 meters to go. Gustav can see him. 100 meters just behind him, Gustav Besson, his teammate. But it looks like Javier Kruger is going to take another case of Duel of Wine. I hope he's going to share it amongst his teammates, because 2 cases of wine, I think he needs to share. But we're going to just stop it before he goes over so it doesn't stop the system. But there we go. Javier Kruger coming in 3rd overall in the 5th stage of the virtual Tour de Suisse 5. Gustav Besson coming in a 4th place, just finishing 100 meters behind his teammates. So Gustav, he could taste the wine on both days, stage 3 and today, but unfortunately didn't manage to grab it. Like, the wine was there for him to grab, but he just wasn't able to take it. It was there, but he couldn't take it, unfortunately. But it's great to see Gustav back on top form after experiencing a broken leg in a car accident about a year ago. So it's great to see him back on top form and keen and motivated to race on this virtual platform. That's the nice thing about having a setback. It makes you really motivated to come back and prove a point to people that you really want to be out there and race and train and so on. So this is 5th place, Jay Hennessy yesterday's winner, Jay Hennessy, also winning stage 2. So he's won 2 days, 2 out of the 5 days. He's coming in a very good fit position there. T. Hanlon, very familiar name. Andries Nagiri, his first time on the platform in 8th place. He's putting in a solid effort to come to be the 3rd place South African on today's ride. He has got he's got about just under 1 kilometer to go. So Andries Nagiri, the solo rider, rides for himself. Used to ride for a team called ACDC Luso, but now rides for a personal sponsor called, I'll bring it up for you now, just so we can name the sponsor, Drake Events. His personal sponsor, Drake Events cycling team. So thanks for coming to start today's race, Andries. It's great of you to be able to have the fan race, and we can integrate the 2 races and see how the fan race compares to the World Tour race. So this is Andries Nagiri in the last kilometer, becoming the 3rd place South African on the 5th stage of the Digital Tour Swiss 5. So he's almost done. Let's watch him come through. Then we'll go try to find where James Faria has been sitting for most of today. So yeah, guys, once again, this is your opportunity to get some discount on wine. I'll bring up the promo code once again. The coupon code for up to 50% discount on Dualhof wine. Go onto the website, put in the coupon code when you at the checkout point, LD-0320. I just got a message in here. Andries races for Drake Events. Yeah, so there's the coupon code for 50% discount on wine, LD-0320. So get your orders in. Yes, Andries Nagiri coming in to be the 3rd place South African Drake Events cycling team. Racing in South Africa, he raced for Drake Events cycling team. So great to see Andries Nagiri coming on board, getting involved on the start line today, and hopefully we'll see him in the next couple of races, in the new races that Velon and Ruvi put together. Hopefully he'll be there. So we're just going to, so that's him crossing the finish line there, in the 3rd place South African and 8th overall on today's race. So let's just wait for it to reload. 6 minutes behind the winner on a very tough 37 kilometers, 950 meters of climbing. I said 990 at the start, but there was 950 meters of climbing on today's race. So climbing for the distance, it was quite brutal today. So let's call it 1,000 meters. 1,000 meters, 34 k's. That's quite a tough ride. James Faria down in 27th position, still has 2.6 k's to go. James will finish 4th out of the South African riders. So yeah, guys, let's wrap it up for this evening. Thank you for joining us over these 5 days of the Digital Swiss 5, the fan race, of course, and we look forward to what's to come. We're hoping that Velon and Ruvi will host more of these races, and so thanks for joining us over these 5 days. A shout out to any South African riders for the next series of races to get involved, to get on the start line, and make sure that we have more South Africans representing and competing against not only the fan race, but also the World Tour cyclists. So thanks for joining us tonight. See you guys soon.